Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Maya Kala, and this is going to be a part 4 on the series that I've been doing. 5 signs that an empire is coming to an end. This will be part 4. And that part 4 is that 4th sign, social divisions. So I went to Google AI just to get an idea or a definition on what social division is. And it says social division is the separation of people in a society into different groups based on wealth, race, and gender. These groupings create a system where groups are ranked higher or lower than others. This leads to unequal power, unfair treatment, and different levels of access to basic needs like jobs and education. And it says these groupings create a system, or Salaka, it says social division is a separation of people in a society to different groups based on wealth. Okay, we know that happens based on race, and for the most part that happens, but we know there's this word race, all right, is just a social construct that, that man has come up with, especially with the black and white thing being brought to the forefront in 1868, because there is no black and white people, all right? But we're going to deal with these 4 different common types of social division. And I'm going to go through each one and have a couple verses that I want to bring out, and then that'll be the end of it, because we see this social division taking place right now, right? You got the what's called the hood or the ghetto, where typically a lot of the Israelites live, all right? And then you also have those neighborhoods where they're more upscale, sort of supposedly the where the rich dwell, all right? And just for the simple fact that they said there's a division based upon wealth, not all Israelites are living in the ghetto. You have Israelites who live among these wealthy people, all right, and they want to separate themselves. They want to get away. You'll have some Israelites who want to make it big and become what they call rich, and then want to get out of the area where they live, which makes sense. They're coming from an impoverished area. They want to move out, and they want to move amongst the wealthy. All right, so we have these social divisions today. All right, they do exist. I'm going to kind of pick up, continuing this in 2nd Esdras, because I was reading chapter 15 on the last part that I did, part 3. So I'm just going to kind of pick up there, because these social divisions, like I said, are taking place. They're going on right now. All right. 2nd Esdras chapter 15 and verse 17 says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. Now we know that this is going to occur particularly because of this system that's coming, where there's going to be a system where they're able to control your money, control what type of money, what type of funds that you have. It's going to be credits that are going to be given to you, rather than just, it's going to be digital money, rather than what we see, the currency that we currently use right now. All right, And in the future, they're going to be in position where, you might not be able to go into a particular city because you're outside of the limits of where your particular digital currency works. All right, so you might want to go into a different city because they might have a different a restaurant that is one that you like to visit, one that you like to eat, because they don't have that particular restaurant in your city. All right, and for that reason, or you can't go outside that city because your funds don't operate. That digital currency won't work outside of your city, and they might be in they will be in a position where they can cut that off. All right, when you get outside of that radius of that 15-minute city, those cities that they're developing and working on right now. All right, and this thing could occur here very soon because we're seeing these cities be developed. And it says, verse 18, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. All right, and we're at the beginning of Jacob's trouble right now. All right, and although it hasn't become full-fledged, or it hasn't gotten into those dire situations, or neighbors or people that surround you, all right, are watching you to see what you have, to see what you're cooking, to see what kind of utilities you have. All right, it's going to get into a situation where those that surround you may live near you, may be very desperate, especially depending upon the neighborhood that you're in. The more wealthier neighborhoods probably won't experience this so much initially, but we're seeing this already. All right, in the lower income areas, you already have people who are watching you. You don't know exactly what they're doing to see what you're watching you to see what your schedule is. All right, you already have break-ins in the hood, and that's due to the fact that you may have certain individuals watching you to see what your schedule is, to see, when you go to work, when you get off work, and them knowing that window is available for them to be able to break into your house, and take what it is that you have. All right, so we're seeing these divisions, and we're seeing, like I said, the beginnings of Jacob's trouble. But as we get deeper and deeper into this thing, people are going to become more and more desperate. All right, and when desperate times call for desperate measures, these desperate people are going to try to prey on you for what you have. Verse 19, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, meaning with the gun. They're gonna come in, and they might not even wait for you to not be home. They come right in while you're there. All right, we have instances where that happens already. All right, I think there was just recently there was and I can't remember who it is, but a guy that plays football, and I guess they ended up breaking into his home. They broke into his home while he was there, probably thinking he would be at practice, or probably thinking he wouldn't be there. But like I said, desperate times, people get desperate, and you don't know what they will do. All right, they'll come in your house to rob you, unalive you while you're there. All right, and we're going to see more and more of that as we get deeper into this thing, Jacob's trouble. It says, but shall destroy their houses with Salakias. I'll start again in verse 19. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. They're going to come in and take what they want, have their way. It would even maybe your daughter or your wife, all right, taking what they want. It says, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation, all right, because we're having to begin to see how deep this thing is going to get and how bad it's going to get out here, right? We're only seeing the beginnings of this right now. But as we get deeper and deeper into this Jacob's trouble, people become more desperate. We're going to see a lot of desperate measures. So with race and ethnicity, that's another breakdown under this social division, and it says separates groups by skin color, cultural background, or heritage. And we see that now. All right, there was a thing called redlining, it still is, or it's a certain people try to move into certain neighborhoods, and just based upon their skin color, that was what determined is if they received that home loan from the bank. All right, and they would just take one look at you and see, if you had that dark complexion, more than likely you was going to either be denied that loan, or you were going to get, as we see right now, you get that very, very high interest rate. All right, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to be able to issue that loan to you, so that you are in a position where you can't you pay that loan back, so they get both the house back, all right, and they still have you owing them, all right. So they wait for you to default on these things, because they know they're in a position where you're gonna either take it or leave it when they offer you these high interest rates. All right. So like I said, we already see these things happening, and let's see. I'm just gonna move on to the next one because I didn't have a whole lot under there. That next category here under these social divisions is gender, which creates gaps in power, pay, and social roles between men and women. All right, and we're already seeing these gender gaps that creating division. You have in some instances where, just based on your gender, or based upon what you're calling yourself, what you're labeling yourself, and how you're living your life, you see certain individuals who have more rights, than others. All right, you got these LGBTQ plus whatever they are. I can't even remember all the letters that they have, but you find that there are the divisions based upon what their preference is, and they have certain laws that protect them. They may try to come and approach you and try to put something upon you that you don't want put on you. In some instances, you retaliate by, rejecting that. Don't let certain words come out of your mouth, that describe them, or calling them a name, because all hell can break loose. All right, you can find yourself in court just for something that you said when you was trying to protect yourself. All right, so we're seeing that these gender divisions are occurring right now, and you even see, like it says, gender and pay gaps and social roles between men and women, and we see there are gaps in pay. One group is offered, two different individuals can go in and apply for the same job and have the same qualifications, and just depending on what their skin tone looks like, the pay could be that's offered could be totally different. All right, we have these things happening. All right, not only did they occur in the past, they still occur right now. All right, you got the same qualifications as someone else who's had that more pale complexion, and they may be offered a whole different pay than you may be offered with your darker complexion. So those divisions happen. All right, and especially not only in the corporate world, but in the private sector too, because I've seen it happen. All right, I've heard people's complaints. I've worked with people who had complaints, who said they weren't offered a certain dollar amount, so we have these things occurring. That's why this system is breaking down, because the righteous are tired of these things occurring. The righteous are tired of the wicked just being in position where they can just do whatever the hell they want. And in the workplace, I see this often, because it goes on to say, and social roles between men and women. All right, in a whole lot of instances, you have women being offered supervisory positions. All right, because Esau loves to see women dominating men, especially when it comes to Israelites. They love to put the Israelite woman over the Israelite man, because causes divisions. It causes social strife. It causes arguments to occur in the workplace, especially when you see work is not being divided up equally. Hell, you even see people that's in your same position, especially if you're in a job where it's more physical labor. All right, you see men and women making the same pay, but men working twice as hard. All right, just to take some of the workload off of women who's working right alongside them. And I see that happen because I have been working a field where it's very very physical. All right, and I work right alongside people, women, all right, who make just as much as I do, or should I say just as little. But anyway, and because they're women, you see their workload is much different than yours. All right, that can be frustrating, and there's times that I kind of look around and I get a little frustrated. As a matter of fact, today was a day like that for me. All right, but I had to kind of just step back and pray. All right, so that I didn't fly off the handle or let something come out of my mouth, or go complaining to a supervisor, about, even though I know it's not right. I just had to kind of had to struggle through it and be patient and endure this thing, because that's what these times are going to call for, because they can make you frustrated very easily. Now I'm going to go to Jeremiah chapter 31. Salaki. Jeremiah 31 and verse 22 says, "How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh hath erected a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man." All right. So we see, according to the scripture, that we knew that this is a new thing in the earth, where a woman compasses a man. All right. This is not the way it's supposed to be. The women are not supposed to be in a position where she's ruling over a male. All right, she's not ruling over a man. An Israelite woman ruling over an Israelite man. All right, but because of the way things are in this wicked society, you have women that are put in positions of authority, whether they're qualified to do it or not. All right, because Edom loves to see this type of thing. All right, he wants to put women in positions where they can control men. Hell, you even have some Edomite men who love being dominated by by women. All right, whether it be in a sexual manner or just in their daily lives, they made up that saying, "Happy wife, happy life." That's not the way it's supposed to be. All right, man comes home from work and he wants to be able to be treated with respect in his own home. After being out all day in the workplace, being disrespected. I mean, then you come home to be disrespected by a woman at home as well. That's not the way it's supposed to be. All right, but that's what Edom likes to do. He likes to create this division because it brings about arguments. It brings about that back and forth between the man and the woman, and he loves to. That's what his whole thing is about, trying to break up the Israelite family. All right, and he'll sacrifice the other nations and put them in the same position, just so he'll be able to get to the Israelite family. All right. All right, I'm gonna go to Psalms 82 and 5, and Salaki, I want to bring this out and show it. Psalms 82, verse 5. I'm going to read this one in the NLT. It says, "But these oppressors know nothing. They are so ignorant. They wander about in darkness. while the whole world is shaken to the core. All right. So, and I'm not even going to say that there's so much that they are ignorant. All right, just like the scriptures say. But at the same time, some of these uh, Edomites who are in positions of authority, to do hiring and firing at these various companies, you know, this is what their plan is. Their plan is to cause division. Like I said, by putting that Israelite woman over the Israelite man. All right, where she's uh, dictating what his day consists of and how hard he worked. All right, but the last part that I wanted to go to was that fourth category under these social divisions, which is religion and age. All right, and we know that Hebrew Israelites. All right, we have this text. All right, we have the scripture that was written to us. All right, this is that guidance by which we live our lives. All right, not to be necessarily looked at as a religion, but as a way of life. All right, this is our culture. This is our heritage. These are our forefathers that are written of here. So, for the purposes, I know what they're getting at when they say social divisions according to religion and age. All right, and that's so. To me, that's not. I mean, I'm just speaking as a man. It's not necessarily a bad way to be divided. All right, because I prefer to live amongst those and be around those. All right, who know who they are. All right, and seek to please the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. All right, who understand the scripture. All right. So this division is not necessarily, in my opinion, a bad way of dividing people. All right. It says, but divisions by religion and age. All right, and it says it divides communities based on faith beliefs or generational age gaps. All right, and like I said, this is the faith beliefs. All right, is that division, that type of division, in my opinion, is not necessarily a bad thing. All right. Second Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. Verse 14 says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness?" All right. So you don't want to, if you're living your life in a certain way, all right, and to stay in accordance with these scriptures, doing your best to observe the law, statutes, and commandments that's given to the Israelites. You don't necessarily want to be surrounded by a whole bunch of Edomites or even the other nations. You don't want that. All right, those people have nothing in common with you. All right, you living your life in a righteous manner, but you're surrounded by the unrighteous. It says, "And what communication have light with darkness?" Light and darkness can't exist together. Right. So as soon as you go into the darkness, as soon as you turn on the light, that darkness disappears. All right. So they cannot coexist. They don't go. They don't go together. All right. That's why we have this type of thing that's contributing to the decline of this empire, because what they call they gather all people together, right? What they want to call a melting pot, all right? And with the way the world is, especially in these big cities, you got people heaped right on top of one another, all right? They're kind of forced to kind of try to coexist together, and that is not always that's not something that's conducive. That's not always the way it works out. All right, because people have differences. They have cultural differences. All right, they have a hard time, especially coupled with stress and with the idea of living so close to one another, being heaped on top of one another. All right, it causes problems. All right. All right, you're in an apartment, and you come out of your door. The first thing you smell is swine cooking. All right, and you know what it is because we've all smelt that. We've all smelt that bacon smell before we came into the truth. All right, I know people. A lot of us didn't indulge in pork, but at some point in our lives, we did eat that pork bacon. All right, because that shit was what Mama was cooking in the morning. All right, along with them grits and the eggs. You know, that bacon smell was all throughout the house. All right. So, like I said, this is not necessarily a bad thing to have this type of division. And I think the last one that I'm going to bring out before I bring this to an end, because I don't want to make this too long, going to go over to Exodus chapter 23. Is that what I wanted? Verse 2. Exodus chapter 23 verse 2 says, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment." In the NLT it says, "You must not follow the crowd in doing wrong when ye are called to testify in a dispute. Do not be swayed by the crowd to twist justice." And see, that happens many times. All right, with us all being in this society where divisions do occur. But what happens in the instance of going to citizens are randomly called into a court situation where you got juror members who have to get together, all right, and have to come to a conclusion, whether rendering a guilty or an innocent verdict upon an individual. All right, and you have some people who want to render that guilty verdict just based upon the color of somebody's skin, just based upon the complexion, rather than going upon the factual information and rendering a righteous judgment. All right, in that instance, you see that righteous judgment doesn't go forth. All right, so these are the types of divisions that come about that contribute to the decline of an empire. And as we see this empire going down, all right, so I'm going to leave it there. And I pray that you were able to get something out of this and that it was edifying to the listener. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, HaKadosh. Shalom.